All Manchester United fans, we all want true change at our football club to take power away from the Glazers and for Manchester United to actually, be run like a football club. And that's why today could be a significant milestone. Ed Woodward is no longer part of Manchester United. He will have no grubby hand marks on anything anymore. The man who effectively replaced Alex Ferguson and spearheaded our spiraling downfall with poor decision making the entire way through, he is gone. And he has been replaced by Richard Arnold. But who is Richard Arnold? What I want to do in this video is explain to you exactly who Richard Arnold is, our first club Chief Executive Officer, a CEO. We haven't had one of those before, and the title could be quite important. I'm going to explain who Richard Arnold is, what his job history at Manchester United has been, and why this could be an important change away from the Woodward style of no delegation, pure autonomy, and autocratic type of reign towards maybe what could be something different with Richard Arnold. And I'll explain that and also explain my concerns too. So if you do enjoy this video and hopefully it does help you by the end of it, consider subscribing to United People's TV. Just go down there, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell as well, get involved and become a member. Why not? But look, let's talk about Richard Arnold and why, as I said, it could be a significant moment for United. So Richard Arnold, it was announced back on the 6th of January that he would become our first CEO, and now today is when Ed Woodward has left the role. So Richard Arnold, today is his first day in charge. And after the frustrations of yesterday, I want to do this video because it's important that these sorts of changes, you all need to keep on top of and understand what's going on behind the scenes at the club, because we all want that proper change. And it's moments like this and changes like this which maybe can bring about that change. So what I'm going to do here is run through an article from Paul Hurst from the Times. It's a bit of a profile looking at who Richard Arnold is and why Richard Arnold was given the job. You go down here, you talk to the colleagues and associates of Richard Arnold, and the first thing they will tell you, he is an incredibly tough negotiator. Richard Arnold has his history inside the corporate sector. When it comes to his relationship with Ed Woodward, they went to Bristol University together, but it didn't actually meet until a few years later when they both started an accountancy course at Price House Water Coopers. Price House Water Coopers? Price Water Cooper House? Can't remember the name of it. What is it? Let's have a look. It is Price Waterhouse Coopers. Always get that wrong. But anyway, that's where they first met. And an important thing to understand here, right? I think this is important anyway, is this little sentence here. When he was growing up at King's School in Chester, where he is now a governor, he was more into rugby than football. Arnold's father was a rugby league player who played for Widnes, but his son was a union man. So Richard Arnold is not a man who has a passion when it comes to football. Richard Arnold is not a man who has a history when it comes to football. And if he's got a history with anything, it's to do with rugby. So that's an important thing to understand here. I don't think that we're going to be getting someone in at Manchester United who simply is going to be this incredible person who's completely and utterly different from Woodward. But that's why I'm doing this video. I'm saying, look, it's not all doom and gloom here. Maybe this isn't just a Woodward Mark II. And that's why I'm doing this video, to sort of, I suppose, help offer some insight into the situation here. Still, those involved with the planning post-Woodward era said that Arnold was the clear choice, not only because he knows the club, and this is where you need to understand. This is why it's going to hopefully be an important change for Manchester United. He knows the club, but knows he needs to delegate to those who know with more football knowledge. And if we go over here to Adam Crafton at The Athletic, this was published back in November, back when all the stories were coming out about Woodward leaving and, of course, Richard Arnold replacing him. And this is what he said back in November on Richard Arnold.
And also for the expected new CEO, which will be Richard Arnold, who is not, he doesn't claim to be an expert on the football side of the business, and he doesn't want to be learning on the job on the football recruitment, development side. He wants to delegate. He wants to have the right people in place, and he wants to take advice. So I think it's hugely encouraging that United are taking these steps.
And that is significant. That is the significant change that we are hopefully going to be seeing with Richard Arnold that we never saw with Ed Woodward. Ed Woodward was a man who had so much self-belief that he refused to listen to anybody else. Even though he was fucking everything up spectacularly, he still thought that he was right. He still thought that his direction was the right thing to do. He still thought that giving players contracts to protect their values was the right thing to do, even though that's been a core part of why Manchester United have struggled to sell players over the last 5, 6, 7 years, and why we've only sold a handful of players over the £10 million mark. I think Daniel James is one of our most expensive players we've ever sold, and that goes to show Daniel James, ridiculous. But this is significant. The fact that we're hearing, and we've heard this from the start, and it's not just from The Athletic and Adam Crafton here, which I will explain in a bit more detail as we get through this video. Richard Arnold wants to delegate, wants to have the right people in place, and wants to take advice. And that was another reason why all of us were so excited about Ralf Rangnick coming in. He's a man who not only has experience in coaching, having done that with Hoffenheim, having done that with Leipzig, and turning them from lower league clubs into Champions League contenders in RB Leipzig, and from Hoffenheim, from a village club, into where they were. He was excellent at club building. He might not have the success of Mourinho, the sort of like top level, huge silverware, but when it comes to success, it can be measured in different ways. And there's no doubt that Rangnick has had success over his career in management, but also inside sporting director roles, both at Red Bull Salzburg and Red Bull Leipzig. And he was over at Lokomotiv Moscow in a communications director role before United brought him in. We all know that Ralph's going upstairs inside that consultancy role. He's got a 2-year consultancy role on top of the 6 months interim manager. Of course, if he's massively successful, maybe there's going to be a conversation to be had about about Ralf Rangnick. But Richard Arnold here, as I said, the delegation is the key difference here. And that's what I want to delve into a bit more. Because as a man, look, he's done some bonkers stuff before. He's done plenty. He's very much, if you look at his history, you can just see a lot of similarities between him and Ed Woodward. Like this, Man United's chief boasts about Odi Nagalo transfer being the top trend on Twitter. Imagine trying to boast about signing Odi Nagalo. Jeez, that was United panicking at the end of the winter. Igalo. Now, I don't know. I think we paid quite a lot to, was it Shanghai we got him from? But on paper, if you look at his career path through Manchester United, been at the club since 2007 when he was brought in, it's similar, right? He's worked in a corporate environment the whole time. And that's a fear that a lot of Manchester United fans have, that he is just going to be an Ed Woodward part 2. But if we head over here now and we read through this article from Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic on the 6th of January, there's some more key points here that we need to discuss. We go down here. You go, as managing director since 2013, his remit, as I said, has been purely the commercial side. Last year, for example, he agreed he was involved in TeamViewer becoming the main shirt sponsor deal. But this is quite an important factor here. Where Woodward was the executive vice chairman at Manchester United, Arnold's official title will be chief executive, a reflection of his primary concern being the business of Manchester United. And this is where Ed Woodward spectacularly failed and Manchester United allowed him to fail. Because Ed Woodward was allowed to simply blend roles. He may have been the chief executive officer, but he was the head of everything. It was Ed Woodward's fingerprints in every single decision, every footballing decision, every commercial decision. And if you're looking at the commercial success of Manchester United, it's massively stagnated in the last 4 or 5 years. Probably about 3 years, 4 years actually. And he was involved in all of that. And Manchester United allowed that by not forcing him to delegate decisions away and allowing him to have that autonomy on those decisions. United spectacularly failed. But that's a key difference that we're going to see, hopefully, with Richard Arnold. We go on to read a bit more on the article here. Rather than get hands-on, and this is Laurie Whitwell saying this, Arnold plans to grant autonomy to the sporting side, allowing for greater control of budgets and decisions. Football director John Murtough will take the lead, assisted by technical director Darren Fletcher. So again, the same concept here. The Richard Arnold will be slightly more hands-off when it comes to football decisions. And this is where the structural change hopefully will come. That's what the optimist in me is hoping. The cynic in me is looking at this going, you know what? How is this going to be any different to Ed Woodward? You've got a commercial puppet who was brought in, who's been at the club for 14, 15 years now, has worked under Woodward, has worked under Glazers. How is he not going to be a Woodward part 2? Because Arnold, whether or not you, I mean, none of us like what the Glazers have done, but you can't argue with some of the success they've had commercially. And he's been part of that. He's a shrewd man. He's an educated man. He would have seen the utter failures that Woodward did. Like this one down here, Woodward's strategy is what I was mentioning there. Woodward's strategy for awarding new contracts for players in the misguided belief it will protect values has left a bloated squad and several on the fringes unhappy. Manchester United are a club who have so many problems, and we know that. And the squad situation is a big, big problem that has been there for some time there. Go down and read a bit more here. Player sales is a key area in which Arnold needs to act decisively or empower Murtough and Fletcher to do so. And I suppose maybe that's what we've just seen in the January transfer window. We've seen Martial go out on loan. We've seen Donny van der Beek go out on loan. We've seen Amad Diallo go out on loan. We didn't see Lingard go out on loan. And trust me, I'm going to be speaking about that point next. And that's my biggest fear, I suppose, is that Lingard example. But player sales have to be a huge part of it. And with Murtough in place, I know that we've all had our critiques of John Murtough and whether or not he's simply a Glazer puppet. And we've seen, I thought he did quite well in the summer transfer window, apart from the Ronaldo situation. I just thought that was down to poor decision making rather than how he actually acted in the market. But Murtough, Fletcher, and Rangnick going upstairs and taking more control of the footballing decisions, and Arnold simply focusing on the business side of things, that's a far, 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 far better structure than Woodward being in charge of everybody like the Godfather and just clashing with clashing with Mourinho, clashing with Van Gaal, clashing with everybody because he was the man who made all those ultimate decisions. And we go down here, and I said this will also be quite an important factor for me. Arnold will be able to gauge Rangnick's reign closely. Unlike Woodward, who spent most of his time at United's London office, Arnold is based at Old Trafford. Being on the ground is essential for detecting the ripples at the biggest club in England, ripples that are beginning to turn into tremors. And the fact that he's not going to be so disconnected, again, leaves me with a little bit more hope that Rangnick can have better influence, that can have better conversations, that Rangnick, when he goes upstairs, as I said, I still feel... my gut's telling me that the Rangnick consultancy position is going to be formalised more into a proper director of football role. Because if you're looking at Richard Arnold, he's the first proper CEO of Manchester United. The title of CEO, he's the first one. And I'm hoping, I don't actually know what John Murtough's job title is. It's either director of football or football director, something along those lines. But I feel that Ralph could go upstairs and make that a more formalised position. But when it comes to my biggest fear, this is from Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail, and you might say, Sam, this is Daily Mail. Why you bring this up? And I'll be like, fair enough. But I know it wasn't just him who said this yesterday. Quite a lot. Everybody, David Ornstein was saying it from The Athletic. Laurie Whitwell was saying it. James Ducker was saying it. They all said that Ralph Rangnick gave Jesse Lingard his blessing to leave yesterday after the Mason Greenwood story began to unfold. Yet he didn't leave Manchester United. He was blocked. His move was blocked. Why was that? It seems like the club came over the top there of Rangnick to make the decision themselves. That strikes me with fear. That is a complete opposite to what we're hearing here, that the footballing decisions are going to be delegated away from, or maybe that was Ed Woodward's final hurrah. Who knows? But this sort of thing this cannot happen if Ralph Rangnick is to do his job properly in the consultancy role. If Richard Arnold is going to be any different to Ed Woodward. Because the Ed Woodward reign scarred United. It was truly, truly horrendous. Truly, for us to move away from Ferguson to Moyes was bad enough, but to move from David Gill to Ed Woodward, it was ultimately Ed Woodward really who took charge of Manchester United after Fergie. It wasn't David Moyes. It was Ed Woodward in charge of every decision, and because he was the Glazers stooge, they did nothing. Because the numbers were doing okay. They didn't really care what was happening with the football side. But things are now catching up. Rangnick has to have that autonomy to make decisions in the footballing side of things. And Arnold, you can just focus on the business side of things, where clearly you have a lot of talent. That's why you've been promoted into this position. But I hope this video has helped you understand a bit more about who Richard Arnold is. As I said, we ran through the profile there. He does have a history of similarity. You can see the parallels between Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold, and why United fans would be fearful it's just going to be a Woodward part 2. But from every reliable source, we're all hearing this. And this is the crucial difference. That Richard Arnold is going to delegate. And if he delegates and he delegates properly, then the footballing decisions at this football club will be made by football people, will be made by John Murtough, will be made by Darren Fletcher, and most importantly, Ralph Rangnick and whoever comes in next. And the new relationship that they will have together. And Richard Arnold shouldn't really be that involved in it. He can just focus on the shirt sponsors and the commercial side of things. And Man United, because we stagnated for the last few years, we have to do that. Because clearly what was working before wasn't working. It didn't. Woodward, you're an absolute prick for what you did to United. Get the fuck out. Sorry for swearing, but I hate him. I absolutely hate him. And the damage that he's done to my club. Now, I hope it can be different under Arnold. I'm not promising that it will be. But it does fill me with a little bit of hope that the main story here is about delegation, is about the commercial side being split from the football side. And when you do that, and then you keep specialists inside those two separate departments instead of one person trying to oversee both, you're far more likely to have sustained success. And fingers crossed that this new structure going forward of Arnold as our CEO, with Ragnick, Murtough and Fletcher working above a manager and with a manager, is going to be far, far better than Woodward just telling a manager what to do. That's what we've had before. Let's hope that this new structure will change Manchester United's fortunes going forward. I hope this video has helped you understand a bit more about who Richard Arnold is. If it did, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to United People's TV if you're new. But don't become another Woodward, please, Arnold. Love of God, please.